Kirsten, how are you today?
Good, good. It seems like we don't have a Stephanie, but we have Stephanie's energy and love. So it's just
Yes.
the two of us today. But
Yes.
all
To
good,
everyone
all
watching,
good.
Stephanie couldn't make it today, but Kirsten and I are here to have our discussion on
Yes,
confidence in the workplace, just so everybody knows.
yes.
And I'm just checking the LinkedIn because we are our own speakers and producers today. And it looks like we are live. Yes,
We are live. I'm looking at it on the phone and I see that. Please throw things into the chat. Please say hi because we want to know. So, when we're talking about confidence in the workplace, what's the first thing that comes up for you, Anne?
Ooh, well, I think I have a lot of thoughts on this. And what I'd like to do is actually share an HBR article that I found with everybody and just kick off the conversation there because I feel like this is such a nuanced conversation and I could be not lack confidence. I could have too much confidence. What's the right amount? And I want to share this article just because I think it'll like jumpstart our conversation. So while I pull this article up and share in the chat with everybody, just for anyone listening. Yeah.
I'm posting
you're
the
posting
link
it?
to
Oh,
it
fantastic.
in the chat. There we go.
Great. Perfect. Awesome. If anyone's there, let us know where you're calling in from. I'm in Manhattan. Yeah. It's actually very hot today. I may have to turn the AC on later.
I'm Kirsten, in Central Mass. Yep. And Central we put the AC in last night because I was like, oh no, this is not okay. No, not okay.
Yeah, we just got there. All right. So we're just waiting for people to join us. We can get rolling. So thank you for sharing the article in the chat. I'm going to throw it in too, just in case, from LinkedIn. Okay, so here's the article.
Coolness.
We're talking about.
Hi, Dr. Carolyn. Thank you for joining us. Awesome.
Oh, sweet. We're getting some. Hi, Dr. Carolyn. All right. So I picked some quotes from the article that I wanted to share with everybody. So excuse you for a moment while I'll read them. I'm going to do it as in an exciting voice as I can. Okay, here we go. All right. So in this article, here's a summary of it. When women fail to achieve career goals, leaders are prone to attribute it to a lack of self-confidence. And when women demonstrate high levels of confidence through behaviors such as being extroverted or assertive, they risk overdoing it and, ironically, being perceived as lacking confidence. No matter the outcome, women's lack of career progression is blamed on them, an attack they share with other underrepresented groups. This leads women to beat themselves up, which can weaken self-esteem and, in a downward spiral, further erode self-perceptions of confidence. That is a summary of the article. And a couple of other quotes I wanted to mention. This research found that confidence is not just gendered, it's weaponized against women.
Yes.
And I just also want to mention that this was a small sample size of participants for this particular research project. So I want to note that, but also note that we're using this as a jumping off point to our discussion. So I want to mention that. So the vast majority of the women they interviewed in this research, 33 out of 36 women, raised confidence or lack thereof as a central factor from obstructing their own and other women's career progression. In stark contrast, the article says, the men they interviewed did not mention confidence as a factor relevant to their own career trajectories. Yeah. So in other words, to summarize the summary that I just summarized, confidence is a highly gendered word aimed at and adopted by both women and men to explain away the slower progression of women at work.
And one of the things we want to bring up is that this is a layered topic. There's all sorts of factors that play in here. So we're both Caucasian females having this conversation. If you layer race into it, it becomes a whole new thing. So, and the angry black man, the angry black woman trope of expressing yourself assertively comes across as whatever. So there's a lot to this, but what happens when you're not confident in yourself is people think that you know less. And that's not true. You know your stuff, but if you're not expressing it confidently, it can come across as fraudulent. Yeah? Anne, you agree?
I agree. I think a lot of times the way that I like to feel confident is to prepare. Like I like to be ready for the day. I like to know what meetings I'm going to have. I like to prep what I'm going to say. like I like to, that's why I think I'm a career coach, because I like to work with people to figure out, that they're more awesome than they think. And a
Yeah.
lot of times you don't realize this until you've talked through all of your accomplishments and like seen them on paper, like seen them written out. So
Yes.
that's how I personally feel more confident. If I like see data, if I have data to back it up,
100%.
that helps me.
And I get, Anne in the chat. Yes. Anne is the most
Oh,
prepared
thanks,
person I
Kristen.
know. 100%. Anne is like super prepared. And I want to bring up the prepared thing, because this, as a speaking coach, this is something I hear fairly often is I over prepared, so I was stiff. No, that's not what happened. You can't over prepare. You can prepare in a way that is not helpful to you. But if you know your stuff cold and you're prepped for being able to adapt in the moment, you're good. If you know your stuff cold and you only are tied to it, that's how you get death by PowerPoint. That's how you get speakers who can't move. Okay. And Kristen is putting in the chat, if the LinkedIn Live is not streaming properly, there's a backup on YouTube. So
Thank you, Kristen.
woohoo. Yes. Yeah, Dr. Carolyn, exactly. It's a layered conversation. So with confidence, this is something that it seems like as you get more experienced in your career would drop off and then never happen again, right, Anne?
Oh.
Never ever. Not even today in a conversation half an hour ago. So we're having a chat, the SHIP group, and I brought up to the group, I've been speaking for 24 years. I brought up that I'm now on a task for my sales coach to do 5 asks a day for my coaching business. And I locked down yesterday doing it. I absolutely shut down, because I was like, I got through the first couple and then I was like, I can't. Yeah. And it's not that I don't know my stuff. And it's not that I'm not confident that I can help people, because I know I can. But there was something in there. And I got some fantastic advice. And over to you.
Great. So it's advice that I actually got from a coach of mine when I was going through a negotiation. And it helped me out so much that I shared it with Kirsten. And I was like, what if you weren't asking for yourself? What if you asking for your sister, or asking for the child version of you, right? Like, or your best friend. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you were negotiating or asking on behalf of someone else, you'd do your best job. You'd want them to be successful, right? So that mindset shift has helped me a lot, where it's almost like, I don't want to say like having an outer body experience, but it's almost like getting out of my own head. What if I'm not doing this for me? What if I'm doing it for someone else? I'm really doing it for me, but just the fact that I'm thinking about, I'm advocating for someone else. And particularly, I think I like the younger version of you, because like the child version, you want to protect your, do you know what I mean? Protect and nurture your child. So it's like, think about, like that just gave me such a boost of confidence, being like, I almost took a step back and was able to advocate for someone else better than I was for myself, which is another discussion, I think. For us
and I think that's super important, because one of the things about being able to be confident is if you are confident in a setting and you are working on a team and you have under-recognized people on that team, then using your confidence to help bring everybody together is a really great thing, because sometimes you need to open the door for someone else to be able to then have the confidence to go through. So it comes, again, it's a layered conversation. Like if you're fully in yourself and you're confident, you're rocking your inner whatever, goddess, God, what, all of the things, then how can you use that? How can you look around you? There are under-recognized people that you care about in your world. What can you do? So especially the workplace, and that ties to mentorship, which we always talk about. So how does mentorship and confidence show up, Anne? How do those two tie together?
So, that is a really interesting topic. Could we table that for 1 second? Just because you mentioned something earlier that I wanted to talk about. And because you mentioned like, there's no such thing as a speaker as being over prepared, right? You can prepare in the wrong way, but there's no such thing as being over prepared. And so I think about this in terms of being at work. Like if you know what you're capable of and you know your stuff, right? Or if you're speaking and you know your topic, like I could get up now and do a talk on LinkedIn or resumes or branding, no problem. I don't need notes. I got it, right? But it's the fact that I know my subject matter so well that allows me to like sort of switch things around on the fly and be receptive to what's going on in the room, because I'm not actually worried about my content.
Yeah.
I know my content. Then I can actually look outward. So I feel like the preparation part, if you're not confident in your preparation or what you're bringing, then you're always going to be looking inward.
Mm-hmm.
And worrying about how you come across, but you want to be looking outward and looking at the people in the room, being like, how are they reacting? Do they have questions? And that what you mentioned too, you're like, how can you bring yourself in a team environment and like use your confidence to propel other people forward and bring everybody up? Am I making sense? Like, does that,
I'm writing that down, and I realized I might be misspelling it. So I'm going to stop and let Kristen put things in the chat if she wants to. No, the looking outward as opposed to looking inward, that's exactly it. And that's the confidence we're talking about. That's perfect description. Is that ability to kind of, okay, stop having we all have the negative self-talk. Okay. We all have that, but to be able to get past that and to move forward and look at your space and be able to adapt in the moment. And, you know your subject, you know your job, you know what you're doing. So, try to take the ownership of that enough that you can have the confidence to be able to say, excuse me, what's going on here? What's going on here? I noticed that this isn't like, if you see something not working, can you make the world better by doing one thing today? So yes, thank you, Kristen.
Also, just want to take a pause and just see everybody who's watching, what was your reaction to the article that we read? Just that piece. Did you have a gut reaction or a strong reaction to that article? Because what it's basically saying, it's like, if you have lack of confidence or too much confidence, it's still lack of confidence.
It's
like,
how do
you walk that fine line? Yeah. I feel like I do this a lot, where how can I be assertive without coming across as being aggressive?
Yeah. Please, in the chat, let me know how you feel on that tightrope, because it's always a thing. I will say for myself, I have always been a very assertive, very theatrical personality. And I have to be careful, because my passionate responses to things can come across to people as more than just passion.
Got it.
Like I have to, people who are getting to know me, like if I'm really like intense about something, I have to be like, I'm not mad. I'm just really intense. There's a difference. Like I contain multitudes. I will give you the expression that my husband uses. He says, Kirsten has emotions only dogs can hear. And it's true. I do. So, it's like there's a lot of subtleties there. Yes. Yeah. So, all right. So that article was really good. And it talked, what I liked was it talked about women-only spaces for confidence building, which again is gendered. So one of the issues that happens is like when a man is not confident, he is seen as weak or less knowledgeable. So that's an issue for them. When a woman is less confident and she tries to be more confident, there's a tipping point. And depending on where you are, that tipping point can be very narrow into too much. And how do you make that dance? Yeah, you don't want someone to label you as aggressive. You want it to be assertive, but where they are is determining how they see you. So it's a very interesting play. One of the things I'm learning and I'm working on is the confidence to, this is going to sound weird, is the confidence to be okay with being misunderstood and like let that exist in the world. Because I'm on Twitter, and if I could not deal with being misunderstood, I would never get off Twitter and my blood pressure would be up here, but I kind of have to go, okay, I've explained as best I can.
Mhm.
We're coming from different places to the point where I don't think we
Mhm.
can see each other's perspective. So I'm going to step back and then maybe we can have a conversation about moving forward from, no, I don't get where you're coming from, but I respect your opinion,
Mm.
you know, because I
It
so want
sounds
to be understood.
well, we kept saying like this conversation was so layered, and it sounds like this is too, because sometimes it's actually not about you. It's about where
Yeah.
the other person is. It's not a reflection on you. And it's also, but then you have to think about, well, if the two of us are not understanding each other, then how can I best communicate? How do I figure out how you communicate and the words that I should use? Do you know what I mean? To get in touch
Yes.
with you. So we're again, this is like such a layered
It's
conversation. Um,
yes. It's a
yeah.
parfait. Everybody loves a
A
parfait.
parfait of confidence.
That's it. Everyone, welcome to the parfait of confidence. Yes.
Parfait of
It's
confidence. So
delicious.
many layers to it. I also had another question thrown. And oh, do you want to get back to the mentorship conversation? Because we derailed.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Oh
Right.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so the mentorship thing for confidence is super important. Um,
Mm.
I will say from my experience, I had a mentor at my last job, Karen. Karen Blades, an amazing human being. You should be connected to her. So I'm just going to throw that out there. So Karen helped me move into a leadership position, and which my natural energy level was not an ideal fit. So I could work directly with the production team, no problem. I could work directly with the client. But when I was advocating for the production team to the client, I would sometimes, I would say things you're not supposed to say to a client, like, no, you can't have that. And that's not what you're supposed to say. You're supposed to say, yes, but,
Mm.
and then, get into stuff. And I was just like, no, you can't change the animation at the last minute. And it's like, I had to work on that. And she had to give me the confidence to learn new language, to step back, to understand that, no, I have this group, I've got them. And it took mentorship. It took her working with me to get the skill set to be able to advocate for my production team with the client in a way that worked for the client and the production team and spoke both those languages. And I would not have been able to do it without mentorship.
Mm. Got it. I mean, it sounds like you had a mentor slash coach, and she was working with you to provide context
Yes, she's
to the
she's
decisions you were
now
making.
one of my dearest friends. I'm going to be interviewing her live on Ship at some point soon.
Mhm.
Yeah, I tremendously valuable the role that you do. So in your world, Anne, you are a mentor, but you've also been mentored.
Yeah, I'm
So
both at all times.
yeah, so how does that work for you?
Yeah. You mean in terms of how I'm growing through being a mentor and being mentored? Well, first, I
Yep.
think I like to have contacts and friends of all ages from all
Mhm.
industries who do all different things, because I think there's something that, really cool about everybody, and you can learn something about everybody. When I'm choosing a mentor, I want to choose someone who is where I want to be. Do you know what I mean? And also
Yes.
has the qualities that I want to have. And I think
Yes.
that is so important. And like what you just described in your story, it's like you were going about your business. Do you know what I mean? Like making decisions and doing things. And it took somebody like a third party who had like, again, this is this concept of like, sometimes you get the best growth by sort of taking a bird's eye view of what's going on. Right.
Yep.
And whether that's like, if you're in a negotiation, you're like, I'm not negotiating for myself, I'm negotiating for my friend. Do you know what I mean? Taking that step, or like your mentor could look at the situation from a bird's eye view and be like, I think you're coming from a good place, but I think you would have better success if you went about it in this way.
Mhm.
Right. Because they can see the whole room where you're in it and you can't.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say, where it's like mentorship and coaching and getting, even friends, like get that person you trust to give you that bird's eye view, that
Yeah.
third party perspective.
Yeah. It's super important because there's something that happens. Now, my background is in what's called L&D, so learning and development.
Mhm.
And in the L&D world, there's a thing called SMEs. And no, it's not the pirate that hangs out with Captain Hook. It is subject matter expert. The problem with expertise is the more of an expert you become, the harder it becomes to be able to see your work from an alien perspective of someone who's never encountered it and is brand new. So to train a new person who's never even dealt with your subject, the more an expert you are, the harder it is to get into that headspace. It's really difficult. And that requires an outside perspective. It requires outside, going to an instructional designer to have them help you get that look, going to a mentor to have them help you, get fresh perspective. It matters. So maybe your confidence in your workplace, maybe what you're working on is being able, not just being more confident, but being able to be sort of nuanced in your confidence. Maybe use your confidence in different ways. What does that look like? In the chat, what are the tools you use? Who uses the compliment sandwich to be able to give people bad news? Here's something I like, here's the thing I want to talk to you about, and here's something else I like. Who uses that? Because I used to not do that. And that's one of the things I was taught how to do. It's not just go, hey, can you fix X? But this is wonderful. You're doing a great job. This one thing here. And by the way, thank you so much for. And you get such a better result for that. So
I'm curious to see. So it's the video is a bit delayed because like we're talking and then like 15 seconds later it appears on LinkedIn. So we actually have to wait a minute just for the comments to show up for people to get it. What you're describing, Kirsten, though, is this ship infinite feedback loop that we came up with.
Yes.
Where it's like take ownership of where you are. You know what I mean? Like leverage your relationships with other people. That includes your allies, your mentors. Do you know what I mean? Like your network, right? To better understand yourself and your environment and the impact you could have, and then take that feedback and own it again. Do you know what I mean? And you have this like infinite loop where you're constantly sort of like doing some introspection, but then looking outside to trusted people. Do you know what I mean? To get a different perspective, and then taking all that knowledge and bringing it back in. So it's just this loop, and you can do it all the time, right? Because even you mentioned like, hey, confidence is something that you get, and then you just like have it for the rest of your career. And
it magically,
not necessarily.
It never goes away. It's always there. It's never in flux. No. Getting confidence it's a dance, and it's an incremental thing. And actually I'll try to point to the right spot, like that logo, the feedback loop, it matters to be able to do the work inside and then pull in the outside perspective and balance and figure out. Like, let me ask you, Anne, with my team, I have 2 people on my team. The 3 of us are all educators, but Kelly is a professor. So she's the higher ed. I was a contract trainer. And then Danny comes from the K-12 world plus the contract world. We actually have to occasionally stop and check our language because we mean different things by the same term because of our industry. So every once in a while we come across like, well, hire for, it means this. Oh no, you mean that for, oh, wait a minute. And we have to pull back and translate. Does that happen in your field? Do you have to check the language?
I would say it would happen. That's a great question. I would say it happens in the context of when I work with clients who are so used to describing what they do to other people who also do what they do. And then I come in and I'm like, let's explain it like I'm 5. Explain it to me like I'm 5.
Yep.
Do you know, and what we want to do is, and I'll just go on a slight tangent here, but when you're trying to communicate with someone else, my whole logic for this is that you do not want to make someone else feel stupid. You want to make the other person in the conversation feel smart. So if you're using language that they don't understand, right, or like very technical terms, or you're going too deep in the weeds, they're just going to shut off, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, I don't know what they're talking about, but I don't want to ask them because then I'll feel silly. Do you know? So it's like, explain everything in very clear terms. Do you know what I mean? Get some, and like make the person you're speaking to feel really smart, which
Mhm.
means you might have to start very high level and then work your way down.
Yeah.
You know, but
And
think about how much better interactions you could have if someone was excited to talk to you about what you're actually really passionate about because you're using their language.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. And I mean, for anybody who's done a martial art, anybody who's done anything, you get to a certain point where you have to have students to learn more. And it's the same thing in a workplace. And it's the same thing with confidence. Like there comes a point at which you have to help others to help yourself grow more. And if you are really confident and you are there, but you want to grow more as a person, look around you for the under-recognized people and see, maybe you can kind of bring your voice in and grow your own skill set in a new way. You don't need to hit a wall. You don't need to hit a ceiling. There's always directions to grow in. And that's one of the things that we're always coming on here and talking about.
And I do want to mention, so when you ask the question, how do people sort of give feedback to others? Kristen mentioned that she uses yes and from Positive Intelligence. Yes, and that's
Mhm.
also an improv tool. If I
It's
remember
also an
correctly.
improv tool.
Like, yes,
That's where I
and
got it from. Yep.
right. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And to
Got it.
explain that in my perspective, so when I'm talking to coaching students about,
Yeah.
you're doing a live like this and you're
Mhm.
getting questions or you're doing a speech or what have you, and someone throws something at you that is completely left field, if you do oh, that's great, but what we're talking about is workplace and confidence. The but invalidates them, shuts everything down. And again, you don't want to make people feel stupid. So instead, you can pull people back in. That's amazing. I had absolutely no idea. Squirrels like rutabaga? Wow. Okay. And confidence in the workplace. So you just yes and them right back into the room. You do not need to shut them down. You just pull. It's a dance thing.
Well,
You
it's
know?
also like you don't have to put someone else down
Yeah,
for you to have confidence. Right?
exactly.
Isn't that like the example of bullies?
Mhm.
Right? Like they're putting you down because they don't feel confident and they want to feel more confident. And that's the mechanism that, of course, this isn't very more nuanced conversation. I'm making a kind of a huge overview here, but I always
Yep.
remember like hurt people hurt people.
Yeah,
So like
exactly. And it
your
and it
confidence is not
grows.
affected by other people's confidence. It's actually if you're surrounding yourself with confident people and you can bring people to bring more confident, like it's only gonna help. It's only exponential growth in my mind.
So I want to ask the chat, how many people, and just in the chat, if you can, throw it in, how many people have been going into a situation, professionally, where they're nervous about what's going to happen or they're afraid it's going to be uncomfortable or something, and you kind of take the moment to put on your own personal psychic armor, like you make sure you kind of protect yourself, and then when you go in you've got that core of, no, you can't, I've got me, I am worthy, and then you have that shield. Has anyone done that? Is that something that is alien, or is that just me? I want to see what people
We'll
think.
yeah, we'll wait a little bit and we'll wrap up soon because we're
Yes.
almost at 12:30,
Oh,
which is
we're
amazing.
almost
This
at
went by so
12:30.
fast. But I also just want to mention, while folks are thinking about Kirsten's question, the infinite feedback loop that we created was a loop like this. But Kirsten, when you pointed up to the
Yeah.
logo, I said, "Oh, we have to make it like this."
Yes. Yes.
That would be
Because
so
because
much
I look at
fun.
I look at it and I'm like, well, there we go. Because you're going
Yeah.
blue into other people's perspectives, and then fuchsia back into
Ah,
yourself, and dot, 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 dot.
there you go. All
So
right. Well,
Kristen's saying,
yeah.
I have a foundation built on understanding my own value. Any other validations is a bonus. Awesome.
Mm.
Fantastic. I love that. And that's a wonderful, like, just put it on yourself so that you can go into. And what do you do when you're going into a challenging meeting? Since we're wrapping up, what's your way of, you're going to be talking to a huge board of directors and they're all
Well, I'm going to
Terrifying.
prepare.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to prepare my content. I'm going to know it cold. And then I may take some time to kind of relax before the meeting. Or I might play some heavy metal music.
Nice.
To be 100% honest. Sometimes, like when I go to the gym and I really want to have a really good workout, I will pump myself up by listening to like
Fantastic.
Metallica or Slayer before I go.
Awesome.
And I've never
I
mentioned
love
that
it.
to anyone before, so now you're all
No,
got
that's super cool. I love it. All right. Oh, I have some back channel. I have something I have to share with you. So yeah. Okay.
Okay,
So that's a
excellent. Well, what do
whole
you
nother
do?
conversation.
What do you
Um,
do, Kirsten? Then we'll roll it
yeah.
out.
So
We'll let
what
you get
I do when I'm going into like I know it's going to be a tough is my energy, as I've mentioned before, my butterflies are my battery. I just want them to fly in formation. So I kind of have to do a moment of so I do a breathe in for 4, out for 8, and I kind of gather again my butterflies to, it's like, okay, everybody, we're going this way because I have the battery. I just need to not be, all over the place. So that's my way of like when I go in. I just don't want to be too calm. If I'm
Got it.
too
So you like center
calm,
yourself a little bit.
yeah, I want to
Yeah.
center myself, but I want that little buzz going on, that little energy, because that's where you move. That's an easier place to move forward from than if you've completely shut your energy down. So,
Interesting. Interesting. All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here with us today to
yes.
talk about confidence in the workplace and just some admin stuff. Please, if you're not following us on LinkedIn, please follow us. We have
Mhm.
a summer LinkedIn Live series coming
Yeah.
out in a little bit, and it'll be awesome. I can't share it with you yet, but we're still working on everything.
It'll be
But we do have
fun.
a summer series coming up, and they will be on Thursdays from 12 to 12:30 for the next couple of weeks. So they'll be
And
on Thursdays, not Fridays. Part of the reason is because I couldn't be here to do it on Fridays, but also we feel like people take Fridays off during the summer. So we want to make sure that you can have lunch with us and
yeah,
join us on a Thursday
yeah,
instead of Friday. Yeah.
it'll be awesome. We got so much going on. So please, come join us. Come play.
All right. We will see you all soon. Any questions for us, pop them in the chat. And I wish I had some sort of a nifty bow quote, but I don't. So have a great
Okay.
Friday, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
We're not done yet, folks. I got to get the banner going. We're off.